this is Nancy with On Point TV. I have been so excited wanting to do this series for you. This is a series on New York Beauty quilts. Just so happens to be my favorite quilt pattern of all the quilt patterns in the entire universe. The New York Beauty is my favorite one. And I think the reason I like it is because there's so many different things you can do with it. And it's not that it's a hard quilt, but that it's a very impressive quilt. When you get done, people are going to go, "Oh my goodness, did you make that?" And you'll be like, "Yeah, I made that." That's the wonders of the New York Beauty quilts. So I'm going to first start, as always, with a little quilt show. So these are some of the quilts that I have made in the New York Beauty style. So this is the first one that started it. This started the addiction I have with New York Beauty quilts. This came from a pattern by Jean and Valerie Wells, and the book was called Garden Inspired Quilts. Probably 18, 19 years ago. So it's been a little while. I have been able to find them sometimes when I look in like used bookstores that have quilt stuff. So maybe you'll be able to find it. Garden Inspired Quilts by Jean and Valerie Wells. Well, they made this. It was a really, really big quilt. And I started making it and I decided to change it up and it's a different size. So this is a really nice wall quilt. This is the one that started it. And what was so cool is all of the different variations. You can see here, this one has 2 rings. Each ring is pointed. This one has big fat rings and then just an inside quarter circle. So there's so much variation. The blocks themselves for this quilt, the layout and the instructions came from Jean and Valerie Wells' book, but the blocks came from Karen K. Stone's New York Beauty block book. So it's an old book, 25 years at least. And in that book, there's all these different designs used in the New York Beauty. Nowadays, I design all of my New York Beauties in the electric quilt program. You can make so many different variations. So if you have never done electric quilt, if you start doing electric quilt, they're up to version 8 now. That's where you can actually design so many different New York Beauty blocks. So on this quilt, the other thing about this one is this is what started my obsession with beading quilts also. So I just kind of covered the quilt with beads. It was really, really fun. It was interesting. And that also makes everybody go, "Oh my gosh, did you do all that?" And you go, "Yep, I did all that." The next quilt is a Karen K. Stone design. Now, Karen K's design is called Lady Liberty Goes to Hawaii, and she made all these blocks in Hawaiian fabrics. I made mine with African-inspired fabrics. So I made a whole bunch of these blocks, so you can see all these fabulous blocks with the African-inspired fabrics, not having any idea what I would do with them, which is normally how I do things. And then I went on a vacation and stopped at a shop, and they had this elephant batik panel, and I snatched that up. That was just a keeper for me. And when I got that and I had all of these blocks, everything just kind of came together. Now this was made with fabric from Tim Holt's Eclectic Elements collection. I had the opportunity to be with him at a quilt market when he first introduced his fabrics, so he had sent me some of the fabrics and I was able to make a quilt. When he sent me the fabrics, the first thing that came to mind is New York Beauty. Truth is anytime I go, "Oh, I want to make a new quilt," the first thing that comes to mind is a New York Beauty. Now, I don't always do that, but immediately with this, I thought eclectic elements, I'll make New York Beauties that are lots of different sizes. So I designed this on EQ7, and it has small New York Beauties, larger or medium-sized New York Beauties, and then over here, the more of a normal, this is maybe a 9-inch New York Beauty. And then I use the same technique I'm going to teach you to even do these sashing blocks. So just an interesting way to create design in your sashings. Now this, I ended up having to design this on EQ, but it's not my design. The design is from Laundry Basket Quilts, Adita Sitar's, and it's called 9/11. She designed this quilt after the 9/11 attacks in New York with New York Beauty in mind, and hers was a very scrappy Americana colors. I made mine out of soft taupe colors. I told you I also did design it in EQ. Adita has all of the templates, for doing the New York Beauty because she hand pieced hers. I'm going to paper piece mine. So I designed it just like Adita did in New York, in the electric quilt program so that I could actually paper piece it the way I wanted to. This is quite an old one. I don't think this pattern is available anymore. The pattern was from a pattern company called Be Creative, and the name of the quilt was called Fickle Pickle. What I like about this one is this is the one that I like to teach beginners because the points are quite large. It doesn't have all those really skinny little points, and the edge of the point is quite a bit of a distance, about a ½ inch from the edge of the block. That makes it a lot easier to match up your points onto your block. So this one is called Fickle Pickle. This is one that I truly designed all on electric quilt. Electric quilt has a lot of different settings, and one of the setting combinations is it's an uneven setting, and for the life of me, I cannot remember the word. We'll post the word up. So right there below me is the word that I'm looking for in the EQ program. And the idea of that particular setting is it's all these different size blocks, and you can take any block you want and put them into all those different sizes, and electric quilt tells you what size to make everything. So I just took New York Beauty blocks, plunked them in, and then printed off these paper piecing templates. So everything, even though they look very, very wonky, it really wasn't that hard. It was just paper piecing, and New Electric Quilt did all the work. So someday I'll finish this one. This one is not quilted yet. Can't quite decide what to do for a border on that. See, I've done some things. I've taken some things off. I've done some things. Yeah, sooner or later it'll be done. This is not a New York Beauty. This is, oops, let me fix that. This is a sampler quilt. So a sampler quilt that the gals in my bee made, we all made different blocks. And so I took those blocks, I used that technique of coping strips that I've showed you a couple of times to make all the blocks the same size. And I wanted something interesting in the sashings. So in the sashings, I created a template on paper piecing, and I paper pieced all of these points. I think that makes a really interesting sashing, a really great way to get design impact on your quilt without really that much more work. Yeah, it's points. Well, they're not that hard. You can do that. Now, this is the one that we'll actually be working on in the process of making this quilt. This is just my simple New York Beauty sample. It's a 4-patch block, all of this designed in the electric quilt program. Now, in this, you'll see that here are the points of the New York Beauty, and they're just single points, a background and a point. On this, you'll see that the points themselves have 2 colors in them. Doesn't make the block any harder. It does make the block much more impactful, but the idea here is kind of like a mariner's compass, where they will use 2 hues of the quilt, so a darker one, or shades rather, a darker one and a lighter one, kind of gives it that 3-dimensional look. So when we meet next, I'm going to talk to you about the paper piecing template, and I'll be talking to you about these arches and this quarter circle here. These sections, the quarter circle here and the outside section, those are done with curved piecing. So that'll be in the 3rd part of our New York Beauty segment. So I hope you enjoyed the little quilt show. When we come back, we'll talk about the paper piecing.